let's talk about us. I'm Zach, and today we're covering a story that the right doesn't want you to hear. Either because they're not interested in it, doesn't align with their messaging, or it might just be nothing. We are using Associated Press, has 2 lean left ratings as well as a central rating, and 2 high factuality ratings as well as being independently owned. 50 European leaders assess how Trump will affect their fortunes and seek a common stance on Russia, by Raf Kassert and Justin Spike. And this was updated this morning. Around 50 European leaders on Thursday called for a stronger defense posture across the continent that no longer necessitates a fundamental dependence on Washington, as they gave a guarded welcome to incoming U.S. President Donald Trump. The European Political Community Summit on Thursday in Hungary's capital Budapest reassessed transatlantic relations in the hope that Donald Trump's second U.S. presidency will avoid the strife of his first administration. He was elected by the American people. He will defend the American interests, French President Emmanuel Macron told the other leaders, adding that it was not the role of European Union leaders to comment on the election, to wonder if it is good or not. The question is whether we are willing to defend the European interests. It is the only question. It is our priority, Macron said. Time and again, leaders stepped up to say European defense efforts should be increased. During his first 2017-2021 presidency, Trump strongly pushed the European NATO allies to spend more on defense, up to and beyond 2% of gross domestic product, and to be less reliant on U.S. military cover. That point has now totally sunk in. He was the one in NATO who stimulated us to move over the 2%. And now, also thanks to him, NATO, if you take out the numbers of the US, is above the 2%, NATO chief Mark Rutte said. Charles Michel, the council president of the 27-nation EU, agreed and that the continent needed to become less reliant on the United States. We have to be more masters of our destiny, he said. Not because of Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, but because of our children. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said it was time to wake up from our geopolitical naivete and to realize that we need to commit additional resources in order to be able to address major challenges. It is a question of competitiveness and a European defense. During his election campaign, Trump threatened anything from a trade war with Europe to withdrawal from NATO, commitments, and a fundamental shift of support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. All issues that could have groundbreaking consequences for nations across Europe. Of course, he has said a lot of things during his campaign, said Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof, adding they won't all be appearing in his official policies. Transatlantic cooperation is of the utmost importance both for the US and European interests. For now, European leaders hope a new beginning holds the promise of smoother relations. Rutte, who was Dutch Prime Minister during Trump's first presidency, said, "I worked with him very well for 4 years. He is extremely clear about what he wants. He understands that you have to deal with each other to come to joint positions. And I think we can do that." And Rutte insisted that the challenges posed by Russia and Ukraine affected both sides of the Atlantic. Russia is delivering the latest technology into North Korea in return for North Korean help with the war against Ukraine. And this is a threat not only to the European part of NATO, but also to the US mainland, he said as he arrived at the summit. During the campaign, Trump said if he were re-elected, he would end the war in Ukraine, now well into its 3rd year in a single day. Ukraine and many of its European backers fear that this means a peace on terms favorable to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and involving the surrender of territory. European allies in NATO hope to convince Trump that if he helps to negotiate any peace, it should be done from a position of strength for both Ukraine and the US. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who spoke to Trump last night by phone, told reporters in Budapest that Europe and the US need each other to remain strong. It was a good, productive conversation, of course. We cannot yet know what his specific actions will be, but we hope that America will become stronger. This is the kind of America Europe needs, and a strong Europe is what America needs. This is the bond between allies that should be valued and must not be lost, he said. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, the summit's host and an ardent Trump fan, said early Thursday that he already had a phone call with the incoming president overnight announcing we have big plans for the future. So did hard-right Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who lauded the deep and historic strategic partnership that has always tied Rome and Washington. That partnership came under constant pressure during Trump's first term. Trump's administration slapped tariffs on EU steel and aluminum in 2018, based on the claim that foreign products, even if produced by American allies, were a threat to U.S. national security. Europeans and other allies retaliated with duties on U.S.-made motorcycles, bourbon, peanut butter, and jeans, among the other items. Further compounding an already complicated situation in Europe, Germany, the continent's troubled economic juggernaut, sank into political crisis after German Chancellor Olaf Scholz fired his finance minister, causing his governing coalition to collapse. Scholz, who remained in Berlin instead of joining the summit in Budapest, will now lead a minority government. The turmoil raises the specter of an election in a few months, and yet another standoff between the emboldened hard right and the established parties in Europe. Those two combined adds even more pepper and salt to this situation, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said. Alright, Donald. Is this a saying in Poland? We're adding more pepper and salt to this. It is getting bad. Like, what? Alright. That's the end of the article. And then this is Justin Spike. Got a cool little profile picture there. I like when they do that. I like putting a face to a journalist's name. Helps me remember them. Helps me remember like what they're trying to say, what they have said in the past. Anyway, I do have a little video for us to watch. This is reporting on Germany.
So let's head to Germany, where a political crisis has erupted. Germany's three-party coalition has collapsed after ministers from the Free Democrats quit the government, likely paving the way for early elections next year. Their exit comes after German Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacked his finance minister. He said Christian Lindner, who leads the Free Democrats, had broken his trust too often, making serious government work impossible.
Too often, after the necessary compromises have been drowned out by publicly staged disputes and loud ideological demands. Too often, Federal Minister Lindner has blocked laws in an irrelevant manner. Too often, he has engaged in petty party political tactics. Too often, he has broken my trust. He even unilaterally withdrew from the budget agreement after we had already agreed on it in lengthy negotiations. There is no basis of trust for further cooperation. Serious government work is not possible in this way.
And as mentioned, this is expected to trigger a general election in Germany early next year, leaving a void at the heart of Europe, just as concern is growing in EU capitals over what a second Trump presidency will mean for transatlantic relations. Let's go live to Berlin now to speak to our correspondent there, Damien McGuinness. Good morning to you, Damien. So, presumably lots of reaction this morning. It was quite a dramatic day yesterday.
Yeah, and that was a scathing attack, wasn't it, by Chancellor Scholz on his own finance minister. That's unprecedented in modern German politics, to have a chancellor be so critical, so openly of one of his own ministers. And I think for a long time now we've realised this government wasn't going to last the full course.
I guess he did say unprecedented for modern German politics.
For a while that the end was nigh. And what we've now seen, really, essentially, it's a conflict over ideological differences between how to get the German economy going. You have two very different camps within the coalition government, and one of them was led by Chancellor Scholz, his centre-left Social Democrats, supported by the Greens. What they believe, they want to loosen Germany's tough and strict constitutional rules against taking on new debt. They want more borrowing in order to help Ukraine, to get the economy going, to invest in infrastructure. Chancellor Lindner, ex-finance minister now, Christian Lindner, who leads a free market liberal party, he has the exact opposite approach. He says, no, you need to cut taxes, you need to limit borrowing, and that's how you're going to get the economy going. And of course, those two positions now appear irreconcilable, and that's essentially why the government has fallen apart, leaving a lot of insecurity. But I think there is a feeling here in Germany from a lot of people that the government has become so blocked anyway between these two camps in the coalition that actually fresh elections, early elections are, in many people's eyes, better, because it means that actually there's a solution in sight rather than hobbling on to next September when ordinarily the elections would come, because of course there are lots of challenges globally for Germany to deal with. So you really need a government that's effective and united in its approach.
Are we going to talk about the German AfD at all?
But the question is, early next year, is that what voters will get?
Yeah, so the time frame now will be on January 15th, the vote of confidence in the German parliament. That's likely to lead to early elections by the end of March. And I think what we've already seen really in the polls is that voters have had enough of this coalition. The arguments really for the past year have been unbearable for most people to watch. You're looking at a coalition that's been pulling in two separate directions. And that's really why a lot of people really want things to change. And so what's likely to happen is early elections. And I think we're already seeing on the media today, German leaders of all the parties are already in election mode.
Oh, I bet they're scrambling.
Really in the blame game.
I bet they are scrambling harder than Kamala did.
Chancellor Scholz's speech last night was so harsh because he was keen to set the record straight in his eyes to clearly blame the free market liberals for the collapse of the government. Of course, they would blame the Chancellor. They say, well, he's stuck in the past. He simply wants to support industry with subsidies and higher taxes. That's not the way
keep
to
in
get
mind, if you're an American viewer, European definition of the word liberal is not our definition of the word liberal.
Those who are more of a free market approach,
it's an interesting
and those
read
who
if you
really
ever
want
to
to
look into it.
Support industry more. And I think that's part of the election season that we're already seeing getting going this morning here in Germany.
All right. This has been Let's Talk About Us. I'm Zach. You all have a happy Thursday. Try to enjoy your life. Try to make do with what you have. And if you can, try to make your life a little better each day. That's all we can do. I'll see you tomorrow.